And joining us right now in the studio to speak further on the state of the nation, of course, following the protest happening today, we have the Honorable Minister of Information and National Orientation, Mohammed Idris. Thank you very much for joining us, Honorable Minister.
Thank you. Good to be here.
We're pleased to have you. I'm sure you've monitored and observed situation across the states. How would you react going by what was prevented and what we're seeing playing out?
Well, let me start by saying that it's not a happy day for Nigeria today. We are always known as a government that a situation like this could happen, and that was why we kept appealing to these protesters that while it is their democratic right to engage in this kind of protest, we knew that hoodlums and other criminal elements could infiltrate this kind of protest, seize the occasion, and unleash mayhem and violence in our people and on the property of Nigerians. And exactly what we saw, just 12 hours of protest today, we saw how events unfolded in Kano, in Kaduna, in Borno, in Jigawa, in Niger, Sokoto, and many other parts of this country. It's indeed a very, very sad day. We knew that this was going to happen. Nigeria is a democratic nation, and we know that this democratic process of having protests are legitimate. But we also knew, like I said earlier, that it is going to be seized, it is going to, to be taken over by hoodlums and criminals, and we were proved exactly right. The president has always said there was no need for this kind of protest. He was listening to the youth who were baking this kind of agitation. The anxiety was high, and government had always insisted that it was not the right thing to do. Protests are right, yes. Is it within their democratic norms? Yes. With their hardship in the land? Yeah, we also agreed that there was no time that the president or government had said that Nigeria did not experience this hardship or things are not a bit challenging for Nigerians. But we knew that protests couldn't solve this problem, and today we were proved exactly right. The president, when he came on, tackled head-on all those things that past administrations have been lacked the courage to embark upon, the fuel subsidy removal, the unification of the exchange rate, and so many other ambitious initiatives of the president aimed at revamping the economy, putting it on the track to sustainable progress and development for our dear nation. And we knew that, of course, this was going to come with some shocks. The president had admitted severally. We had talked about it. We knew that there were going to be issues. It was a turbulent period, we knew, and that was why government embarked on a lot of ambitious initiatives to ensure that Nigerians had both an immediate, short-term and long-term relief from those kind of shocks. And unfortunately, today it came to pass. These hoodlums infiltrated genuine protesters. You recall that government had always said, if you knew you wanted to protest, that was right to go. Come, let's know you. Let's sit down with you. Dialogue is part of democracy. You couldn't just hide somewhere and say you were going to just protest.
Okay. Honorable Minister, it's good you talked about dialogue, because even before today, we've been different groups and even the government come up and say, let's dialogue on the table. But going by what has played out today, we're seeing strings of violence in some parts of the country, which was not planned for. What would be your opinion, rather? Is it at this point, should the police step in and say no more to this? Because earlier we saw the IGP brief the media, and they're placed on red alert, as we can see.
Well, it's not in my place to say no more. I think the security agencies will do an appraisal of the situation. You could see that when it started early in the day today, they were peaceful. The police, even the protesters in the early hours were commending the police for the orderliness that they have displayed. Unprecedented. I think the police had shown a great deal of maturity, civility, decorum, responsibility in the way they have conducted themselves. But somehow we also knew that some hoodlums will take charge of the process, and that was exactly what has played out. So what we hope is that they will heed, the protesters will heed the call of government, the call of all well-meaning Nigerians to at least see reason come down from this high horse. Let's dialogue. Let's discuss. It doesn't pay anyone. I mean, you know, protesters are going to loot shops, break homes, you know, touch offices, even at some point even trying to get access into a government house. We've seen that situation in Kano, you know, where protesters, so-called protesters, were trying to go into Kano government house. I mean, these are no longer protests. These are violent people who were trying to, you know, go against established procedures, going against law and order, and there's no way security agencies will continue to fold their arms. But like I said, it is within their right. It's not for me to say whether the police, whatever the police will do or not do. I think that the Nigerian armed forces, the Nigerian police rather, are properly trained. The security agencies are properly trained to keep law and order. We expect that the protesters will see reason, and the criminals that also join them will see reason and come down from their high horse. Let's dialogue. You know, the president has always said dialogue is the way to go. I think that from what has happened in just 12 hours of this protest today, you know, there's a renewed realization that we need to dialogue. That is the only way forward for our country.
Indeed, Honorable Minister, and if this dialogue must hold, of course, the government has to involve clerics, religious leaders, which we've seen played out before now. But at this point, going by the state of the nation, what would you advise?
Well, my advice is that all lovers of this country, leaders of all thoughts, religious leaders, other opinion molders, political leaders, everyone, I think this is the time for us to all unite, to come together and appeal to these protesters once again that there's no need for such. Of course, you know that the president had been engaging, government has been engaging with all you know, stakeholders in the Nigerian project, talking to them, appealing to them, explaining to them why this shouldn't happen this way. The fear had not been for protesters as it were, but we knew, and like I've said before, we knew that something was likely to go wrong, and indeed government has been proved right. So we call on all stakeholders in the Nigerian project to join hands with government. There must be a Nigeria first before we can have good governance. We can't have good governance in a situation of violence, a situation of anarchy. And I mean, let the protesters please see reason. It's an appeal once again to them by government that they should come together. And then I'm happy that the Sultan of Sokoto and other leaders have already lent their voices to this. We hope that other leaders will continue to persuade, especially our young people, to understand that the Nigerian project is indeed a huge one that is beyond each and every individual. We must come together to have a meaningful, united country so that we can have the prosperity that the president has always talked about.
Indeed, unity and not division is our cry. Thank you so much, Honorable Minister of Information and National Orientation, Mohammed Idris. Thank you for your time on Network News.
It's my pleasure to be here.